Are we on? I don't know what to do with my hands. No, thanks Ricky Bobby. Hey everybody, this is Jody Mollet, Plowboy Diesel. Here's our truck. Everybody's been wondering a lot about the inner workings of this thing. We're to the point where we're going to do some repairs on this thing and some modifications, some of the things that we don't like about it or could improve. And we're going to kind of, in front of everybody, tear this thing apart and post it on YouTube. And, kind of give everybody the opportunity to see the inner workings of it. And then, of course, we'll probably show the reassembly. So, hopefully everybody enjoys what we got going on. Well, I'm going to do a kind of a walk around right now while it's still all together for some of you who have not seen this truck or haven't seen what little we have posted about it. We wish we would have posted more about this truck when we had initially started the project. But, we're farmers first and foremost, and the social media thing, although we have learned a lot about it, at that time we didn't know, the marketing aspect and how big this truck could have been if we just would have known what we were doing. So, anyway, we'll start by, just kind of looking at the truck here, 1970 Dodge Sweptline, 3/4 ton. Got a full custom frame on this truck. Radius rod front suspension, triangulated 4-link rear suspension. We got the original I-beam front axle under this truck. Dana 70 in the back. Disc brakes all the way around. Truck sits on airbags, all 4 corners. There's some slight modifications to the body and the bumpers that probably only some Sweptline guys might notice. We'll kind of get a full walk around, and then we will show the only thing that most people are interested in, which is the 2 engines. So and we'll kind of go from there and explain some of the other stuff. This is a rust-free truck from Colorado. We really kind of hated to take this truck apart, somewhat of a rare truck. It is an original paint, original big block, automatic, power steering, air-conditioned truck. I know there's a lot of guys out there that are really searching for some of that stuff. We do have some parts laying around for Sweptlines. If somebody would happen to need something, give us a call. We'll see what we can do. The stuff that we have isn't doing any good for us, so please just get a hold of us. So without further ado, here we go. Two 5.9 Cummins, 6 BTs, P-pumped. Both engines have compound turbos. There's a lot of people, especially those who are not involved or heavily involved with the diesel community, that look at this nice shiny aluminum piece up here and they think that this is the radiator. This is actually not. This is the intercooler. This was made by IceBox Performance. They made several other things here that we're going to get to for us. Amazing work. Turned out beautiful. This was, I'm not going to say that this was probably one of the more complicated things because I don't know their whole business, of course. But it seems complicated to me because I'm the one that made the prototype that we sent to them, and they made this thing off of the prototype that I sent, which by the way was made out of wood. Came back, we bolted this thing straight on. We literally had no issues whatsoever with this thing. It could not have went any better. And with this type of a project, you definitely need some things to go your way, because with all that we had going on with this, if you had to fight everything, you would give up on any project that you start. So, as I said, both engines, compound turbos. We got a 66 and a 57 on each. Both engines had the turbochargers and the fuel injection system sponsored by Area Diesel Service. Once again, they're working with us on other projects, and they're super nice people. You're not going to find nicer people to work with. They'll help you out in any way that they can. Now, since this is the intercooler, we've got all of our cold air intake pipes. We are ecstatic how everything turned out. If you notice how all of the angles match, it just literally surprised ourselves how nice it turned out. You kind of forget about all of the time that you spent making it look that way. Before you know it, you spent 2 weeks making all of that stuff match and all of the angles. But when it's done, you forgot about how it went when you were designing it and making it, and the time that you spent. It adds up really fast. So we got the exhaust exiting, as you notice, up here into the cowl off of both engines. It actually runs through the cowl. One goes out the driver's side and one goes out the passenger side. We're really happy with how that turned out. Using an original patina truck, when you're cutting holes like this, you get one shot at it. One slip of the scribe while you're marking the line, or one screw up with the grinder or file that you're using, and you're done. You're literally done. So luckily, once again, that really went good. Back up here to the engines. Everybody's probably thinking, well, since you have no radiator up front, how does this thing cool? So if you notice here, we've got the two engines tied together up here at the top with the coolant pipe. It actually runs down and runs to the frame rail. So this truck actually uses the frame rail to get the coolant to the back of the truck, where we have two radiators built by IceBox Performance also. Both radiators have a fan inside the bed that blows air into the bed. So once the coolant comes to this driver's side radiator, it does cross over underneath the bed to that radiator. It exits that radiator back into the frame rail, back up to the engines. It really works wonderfully. When we had this truck out at SEMA, we went on the final day cruise to the Gold Lot, and this truck sat there running, of course, basically at a standstill most of the time, and the thermostats did not even open. We were amazed. We probably wouldn't have even noticed if the truck had overheated anyway, because that experience of being out there was so overwhelming that I don't even know if we were looking at the gauges the whole time. The whole hour and 20 minutes, I don't know if I looked down. So, all right, let's take a look inside. First thing we got is the custom gauges that were sponsored by SpeedHut. I know our camera has some trouble focusing once in a while, but getting back to the Ricky Bobby thing, I feel like a NASCAR driver trying to promote all of our sponsors, but I will not promote something that we don't like or do not use. Those gauges come in, it's almost a plug and play thing. I know I done a video with SpeedHut when we were out at SEMA, and it just kind of popped into my mind at that time during that video, and it just came out of my mouth as, you know, I said it's like a plug and play thing. And when we were actually installing them, we weren't thinking that way. But, you know, as I looked back on it, that is how they came in. Though everything is marked on where it goes. It's a really simple setup. After that, most people's eyes gravitate toward our transmission. Of course, here we've got our shifter with, it's just kind of a normal thing, neutral, reverse, third, second, first. This is kind of set up for drag racing. If you're in first gear at the line, you want to hit second, and then you hit third. And then our fourth gear for our transmission is actually this button. But this last lever puts everything back in neutral. We really did not need this for this build, but I actually seen that online and I thought I would really love to try that out, and it is a lot of fun to drive. So we get a lot of questions on this knob right here. Everybody wonders what in the world that is. To start this truck, we use a World War II aircraft starter. It has 1,000 foot-pounds of torque. We actually start this truck on 36 volts. It runs on 12, but we started on 36. This is actually one of the things that we're going to hopefully change to something a little more normal. On a World War II aircraft starter, you have the ability to turn them with a knob that's on the starter to line up the jaws when you extend your Bendix. On this build, we have two buttons overhead here. We turn on our power. This first button extends the Bendix, and while it's being held, you push down on this and rotate that, and you can watch it through our window here until the jaws are lined up. Then you can release this, it pops back up, and then you hit your start. It is kind of a complicated setup, and that's, like I said, one of the things we would really like to revamp and make more user-friendly, especially since it's me, which is the user. So one of the things I forgot to mention earlier, of course, this is the original fuel cap. The gas tank used to be behind the seat. Of course, we no longer use it. Most of these 70s trucks especially had an auxiliary fuel tank somewhere here or down in here. This truck actually had one mounted right in this location inside of the bed. So since we were no longer needing it, we thought, what in the world are we going to do with this hole that they drilled in there to fill up that tank? It just worked out really well that that's where we fill our radiators that we discussed before. It really worked out just perfect. We get over here onto this side of the truck. Not a whole lot left to show you about the interior. A lot of people look at the old 6BT VE pumps or the P-pump Cummins and think, oh, it's just so simple to make one of those run. Just takes a wire. Well, that's somewhat true, but of course on this build it was a little different. So there is a lot going on with this. My dad, who was 73 at the time, wired this truck front to back. It was a group effort to get this product done for SEMA. So I believe that the door won't shut. Anyway, on the outside, I think the last thing we really have to show is another one of our sponsors, which was American Force. They supplied our rims. The back ones are 22 by 10. The name of that rim is I believe it was a burnout is what they call it. And the fronts are 20 by 9s. We have Yokohama Parada tires that wrap around those. We really like the looks of the truck. We've had a lot of people say that they don't match the truck, or we could have used something different. Not saying that everybody's wrong, it's just it kind of worked out for us. Will we change something in the future? Who knows? But I think one of the things that we're going to try and do now is possibly go underneath the truck and see how much we can show you from under there. We're probably going to have some bad lighting under there, but we'll see what we can do. Alright everybody, we are underneath this truck here. I'll kind of migrate toward the back here and work our way forward maybe. There's our 20-gallon fuel cell. Compressor on each side for our onboard air. We've got 2 batteries on this side and one over here, hence the 36 volts. So kind of a little more information from where we were at earlier. Got the disc brake set up on both wheels. Airbag system. Got our lines ran for the air. Brake lines. An aluminum 5-inch drive shaft. Turn around here and kind of go back the other direction. There's the 47 RE transmission that was sponsored by BD Diesel. A lot of you guys, probably almost all of you that are in the diesel world know BD. Once again, they're extremely helpful. We had lots of questions when we were building this, of course, as you can imagine. And they followed through with their end. And here I am playing Ricky Bobby again, doing the sponsorship stuff. But as I said, we won't promote somebody that give us a bad product or we don't believe in. Okay, I've got the inspection cover off the bottom. Just trying to make some plans on what we're going to do with our revamped starter system, as I mentioned before. It's going to be hard to get pictures probably of this gearbox, but of course that's the main part of a 2-engine build. We've got a plate on back of each engine with a drive hub with some stub shafts coming out of our gearbox. Got intermediates that go to one gear that's in the middle, which is our output and also our input. This gearbox was sponsored by Modern Machine out of Indiana. They're really big into the tractor pulling scene, and as you can see, they can make almost anything you want. So there is our starter setup. There are the jaws that we were talking about earlier. It's a 3-jaw setup. It's the same thing that they use on top fuel dragsters, funny cars, pulling tractors, whatever, where they have the starter that they put on, start the vehicle, whichever is a tractor or a truck, whatever, funny car, and then they remove the starter. This is the same setup, except ours stays on all the time. That's one of the things we would like to change. We've had some troubles with keeping our jaws from tearing themselves apart, so not reliable enough for what we like. This was not a show truck. It was not built to be a show truck, so you will see some scratches and this and that and the other from the driving. A little quick picture of how the radius rods were set up for the front. The truck amazingly drives better than we thought. You thought I was probably going to say it drives amazingly well. That's not the case, but it does stop and drive way better than we had imagined. Okay, we'll migrate up here to our steering box. That is a 2nd gen Dodge steering box that was sponsored by RedHead steering gear. Our business sells a ton of these things. They sell steering boxes for all applications. Super nice people. Once again, you're probably tired of hearing me say that, but they are good people. Got our steering shaft that I can get there somehow. Don't know if I can. Apologize. But it does just clear between the engine and the frame rail. So we actually held the engines 3/8 of an inch farther to the passenger side in case we needed that room, and we sure were glad that we done that. So if you look from down at the bottom, you do see 2 Harmonic Balancers from Fluidampr. They were a sponsor. That does make a difference on these 2 engines. There's a lot of rattling on a Cummins to begin with, but with 2 of them, it's really bad. So